What is happening out there, rotoscouts basketball fans? Late starting Tuesday show, 5:30 on the nose. Was gonna go at 4 o'clock. Couple things changed, had to get an update in after the initial set of projections. Was gonna go at 4:30. Ran the Sims. Bunch of stuff changed. Most notably Tyrese Maxey going out. Joel Embiid becoming questionable. Reran Sims, updated everything, reran Sims. Then we get the news that Nick Batum is out. Everything changes. I was talking about it in Discord. There were 4 different changes for Patty Beverly. He went from 0.5% owned to like 5% owned to like 9% owned to like 49% owned on the FanDuel slate. And every time that changes, I got to wait out those updates because that's not, that ownership doesn't come from me, obviously. But it just makes simming these things so difficult and getting caught up on these things so difficult when I'm trying to get these shows off. So 5:30 start. We're going to try and get out of here. I'm going to go through everything. I'm going to try and keep the pedal down. That's why I'm just starting in this view today. Going to try and get through things and get us out of here at a good clip. I don't want to be out at even like 6:30. I want to have like a good hour to keep things updated. I was scrambling like crazy yesterday. Yesterday shook me a little bit. It's been a while since we've had a crazy one that's been that big. But what's going on, guys? Cujo Blues here. Doing well, Cujo. Hope you are too, buddy. Trey's here. Got Travis Wyndham here. Powers here. Murray Probable Hunter in. Like that. It's a good jumping off point, I guess. Let me pull that up real quick. So, as I mentioned, throughout the day, we got both Nicholas Batum and Tyrese Maxey out for Philly now. Joel Embiid now a game-time decision. Marcus Morris also questionable there. So, some emergent value on Philly for sure. Certainly, at least in Beverly's case, with a player that I don't fully love when he is super chalky, but he's obviously showing the numbers. It's going to be, kind of a Quentin Grimesy situation like we had last night. I feel like it's funny. I both nailed that in terms of Quentin Grimes is just so primed to disappoint. And I had way too much of him at the same time. That's what it drives me nuts sometimes with the basketball DFS because you don't want to just cold fade somebody like that. So even if you have less than the field, like you're still taking a decent chunk, and he was in some critical lineups for me last night that could have been better. But yeah, I felt like I got the Knicks right, got it on the nose. Precious started alongside, obviously, with the OG Anunoby late scratch. We got Precious in the starting lineup, starting alongside Hartenstein. We got a few additional minutes for Sims. Like everything stacked up perfectly, and I still managed to get myself to too much Quentin Grimes, which drives me a little crazy as well. Like I said, that was a chaotic, fun, interesting, weird slate last night. Şengün and Jokic saved Trey. That's good to hear. Not a winning night for me last night. That was not my best slate. It was a fun one. Like I said, it was just even keeping up with all those changes was fun and interesting. But anyway, let's get into this one. Let me sort this. We're not sorted right now. It would be great if Joel Embiid, Jalen Brunson, LeBron James, and Jason Tatum, and Scotty Barnes, and Trae Young were all the top win rates on the overall slate, wouldn't it? If it was just as straightforward as it looks right now. Unfortunately, I think we're sorted just by fantasy points. So let's get to the win rates. We do have, those aren't bad win rates. Let's clean this up. A lot of those stars were at pretty good numbers. Let's get the empties out of here. I could just filter out the empties, but easier to just kill them. There we go. So our guy Dante took a little bit of a leap. Seems like everything caught up to his excellent production in these situations. Went out and played 41.9 minutes last night, put up 43.7 FanDuel points, 0.97 points per minute on the season. We looked at it yesterday. Obviously, again, the Knicks, various Knicks benefited from the surprise no OG Anunoby last night. He's questionable today. Oh, and I didn't go through the rest of the injuries, which I will. But there's a big number on Dante on both sites. Leading the slate, most popular guy on both sites. That's stayed up as the most popular player on both sites too, with all the changes and with some emergent value around him. We've got Lakers value, we've got Philly value now, but Dante is really shining through at the top of the board. He fits in really nicely at those prices. But anyway, let's talk injuries and absences. So mention the Philly stuff, and then additional questionables: Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, Jalen Smith, Miles Turner, Kristaps Porzingis, LeBron James. LeBron's interesting because we've already got Anthony Davis out. Obviously, Cam Reddish and Gabe Vincent also out from the Lakers. DeAndre Hunter was questionable. Sounds like he is confirmed to be in. I'll double check that news, but trusted source in the chat there was mentioning it. DeJounte Murray remains questionable. OG Anunoby is questionable. Jakob Poeltl is questionable. Out Batum, Maxey, Al Horford, Luke Cornett's doubtful. Anthony Davis, Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, Bruno Fernando, Evan Fournier, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickley. Quickley's doubtful. Doesn't seem like he's going to go. Some value opportunity, mid-range types should be on Toronto as well today. We'll take a look. Zach LaVine, Torrey Craig, Patrick Williams all out. Moses Moody and Chris Paul out. So we've got a lot to work with. Not that much in terms of, like, we've got a solid handful of questionables, and they're all key names, including most of the Pacers' primary players. But it's not a crazy 5 games. It's not a crazy slate. There's no probables listed. It's just that handful of questionables that we're waiting on. But there are some key ones. Like if LeBron doesn't go, there's a whole nother pool of value there from the Lakers side of things. We get the most recent Pinnacle board up. So 5-gamer on both sites, fortunately. Utah and the Knicks. Knicks favored by 4.5 at home, even with their absences. 230.5 on the board there. A lot of interesting pieces in that one. Some guys, I'm sure, showing value as we look through it on the Utah side of that as well. Pacers 8-point dogs in Boston. 246 points on the board there. As you heard, basically everybody on the Pacers among their primary rotation players is questionable. We'll see how it shakes out. We've got McConnell, I think, is out as well. I don't know if I had him listed. I didn't read his name off, but I know he's out, right? Yeah. I don't think I mentioned him. Let me add him to the list there. How did I miss him? Maybe he wasn't. I did it with I put the initial one together on the 3:30 report. Maybe he wasn't listed yet at 3:30. I'm just double checking that. Yeah, McConnell's out. So Tyrese questionable, Ben Mathurin questionable, Jalen Smith questionable, Miles Turner questionable. I don't know how I missed listing McConnell. Tack him on the end here. All right. Just wanted to update that on the site real quick. Lakers and the Hawks. Hawks favored by 6 in Atlanta. 247 on the board there. Again, no AD. LeBron questionable. Back-to-back for them. Raptors and the Bulls. Bulls favored by 6.5 in Chicago. 226 on the board. And then Philly Golden State to end the slate. Golden State favored by 4 at home. 235 on the board. Joel Embiid, game time decision. No Maxey, no Batum. Going to be interesting. So let's see what we're showing on the board here. Beantown, what's going on, Beantown? Good to see you, bud. Trey says Trey bets Embiid sits. Yeah, the only thing I mentioned it in the Discord. The only thing about Embiid is he is running up against the you can only miss X amount of games. I forget what the number is. You can only miss X amount of games to be eligible for the award. So it does come down to a matter of, does he want to try and compete for the MVP and so on and so forth. Right now, I agree with whoever it was in the Discord that said it doesn't seem like, it might have been Trey himself, doesn't seem like he really cares about that right now. You know, you could say eyes on the title. Maybe he is just too banged up to get out there as much as he's been. Or maybe he's just like, yeah, the rest does work for me and I want to be full go for the playoffs. I'll play Jokic in the finals. I don't need to play him in the regular season. That kind of a thing. Which could also be interpreted as I don't give a shit about what the fans want to see. There is that. You know, it's yeah, it's you know, Trav, it is concerning how much he ducks Jokic. It's you just want to see the matchup. Like, you know, imagine Jordan ducking Bird, Jordan ducking Magic, just being like, oh, can't be out there. You know, Patrick ducking Olajuwon. If you want to talk centers, like, it's just different these days, right? I mean, those guys did get hurt. Those guys did miss games. I'm not saying they didn't. But the idea that you're just going to be like, meh, the other MVP center, I don't need to match up against him. Just drives me nuts. I get why these guys, you know, injury management is a thing. Like, I get what's going on. I'm not trying to be super old man about anything. Just that one aspect of, like, the competitiveness is what I'm talking about. Not even the, you know, the injury and the way they go about managing time these days. Just that competitive spirit. Like, don't you want to get out there and kick that guy's ass and prove that you're better? At least the guys I want on my team are that guy, you know? Not that I don't want him beat on my team. I will take him in a heartbeat. I would drive to Philly and pick him up right now, and I neither have a license nor own a car. So Dante DiVincenzo again, top of the board, 61 shooting guard and small forward on the FanDuel slate, 69.4% win rate. That's just gone up and up throughout the day. 84% of the top 150. He is the most popular player, but we're crushing the field's exposure there. Just makes sense as a plug and play mid-range value. There are a ton of minutes available for him. There's a ton of usage. Just in the normal situation that we had looked at yesterday. For the year with no Randall, no Barrett, no Quickly on the court, his usage is not the 19.2 that shows on the screen. I believe it was like 25%. And he just, you know, continues to back that up. So again, 43.7 on the slate last night in 41 minutes. I've got him at 34 minutes and a very healthy projection. You could argue that's a, you know, point and change high off of what the rate might, you know, you could bring the rates down a little bit from where I've got him, but looks like a great option on both sites. Makes sense as a piece of very good chalk. Christian Wood at 5,000 on FanDuel. Trending through at 46.6% win rate, 65% of the top 150. On DraftKings for just 3,600, Wood looks great. 7.81 points per dollar, 63.3% win rate, 95% of the top 150. The big number on Wood, but get back to it. So Christian Wood just bare bones 209 minutes in all situations since the start of the calendar year. So the last 30 days basically. 1.21 FanDuel points per minute, 1.18 DraftKings points per minute over 209 minutes. Oops. Can't just type AD in. I gotta actually type Anthony or Davis. And then 1.29 per minute in 131 minutes with no AD on the floor with him. What happens if we... What I didn't check is what happens if we take LeBron out of that too. 44 minutes with both AD and LeBron off the floor for Christian Wood since the start of January, 1.31 points per minute. D'Lo 1.24 in 35 minutes in that situation with no AD on the court since the start of the year, 125 minutes for D'Lo, 0.94 FanDuel points per minute. Jared Vanderbilt in that situation, 112 minutes in January with no AD, 0.98 FanDuel points per minute. A very popular Austin Reeves is sitting there in third. I'm just pulling up the Lakers in the other file here real quick. So yeah, Reeves, Wood, LeBron if he plays, D'Lo, all hyper popular on both sites. And then the Vanderbilts, the Ruiz, and the Torian Princes, all above 10%, mid-teens to low teens kind of ownership. So those guys are going to be popular. There's a lot going through the Lakers today. But in particular, I do think Christian Wood is interesting and potentially gets more interesting. I really like that $3,600 price on DraftKings. It's a center only, but you got the util spot. Austin Reeves, I like the upside, 0.93 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 0.97 on DraftKings. He was at just 0.84, but it's only a 35-minute sample with no AD since the start of January. If we go back to the start of November. Since the start of November, Reeves in 362 minutes with no AD on the floor is a 1.05 per minute player. So that's a decent little step forward. I've got him in that territory today. Which is consistent from what I've seen across the industry. Seems like people are enthused about the Austin Reeves spot. 51.21% win rate on FanDuel, 63% of the top 150, 52% on DraftKings, 65% of the top 150. Small forward shooting guard on FanDuel for 65, point guard shooting guard for 59 on DraftKings. Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes. These guys come with the exact same warning that they came with yesterday. 31.9 minutes for Quentin Grimes last night. He had the minutes. He got all the run necessary to have a killer game. 12.4 FanDuel points. That's Quentin Grimes. 0.63 per minute on the season. 14.7% usage. That goes up in the situation with no Randall. And it certainly went up in the situation with... actually, I don't know what the total attempts were. But one would expect that it would go up in the situation with no Randall and then the surprise no OG Anunoby. Plenty of run. Just totally disappointed. Josh Hart in 39.2 minutes, he did get us 31.9 FanDuel points, which is right around where he's projected again today for 6,000 small forward, power forward on FanDuel, small forward, power forward for 55 on DraftKings. Just also has the ability to go out there and disappoint. 0.75 per minute. He's a good rebounder. He gets his hands on the ball defensively. He creates fantasy points that way, and he collects fantasy points, but he is very low usage, 11.8% usage overall. It goes up, but not by that much. I think when we looked at it yesterday, it goes up to like 14%, somewhere around there. With no OG, if we get that situation again, he is questionable. Hart would get a little bit more usage additionally. But the thing about Hart, he's taking 2.8 threes a game. He's only making 31.5%. It amounts to essentially one a game. But it's not great. He's not shooting all that well this season. But you can see 13% assist rate. He's good at the, call it fundamentals of the game, right? Rebounding, assists. He is a very good basketball player on the whole. And Tibbs loves him and totally trusts him. So he'll get the minutes again tonight. So it's justifiable that Josh Hart is in this range, 42% win rate on FanDuel, getting to him about that much of the top 150, 35% winner on DraftKings, 42% of the top 150, and he's just priced correctly. It's not like he's really priced up. He's arguably a couple $100 expensive on FanDuel, but it doesn't really matter on a 5-gamer. He just makes things work. I trust Josh Hart more than I trust Quentin Grimes. The upside is probably similar. I guess if Grimes goes out there and takes 5 threes and makes all 5 of them, then he's probably got the higher true ceiling. But Josh Hart should be expected to play more minutes in basically all situations, and should probably be expected to trend, obviously to a higher fantasy score, but like to trend to a higher relative ceiling to his fantasy score, I think, than Quentin Grimes does to his projection. There's a better expectation of Hart getting like a standard deviation on top of his projection and being truly meaningful than I think Quentin Grimes to do that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Which was just simpler when I said it, as I trust Josh Hart a little bit more. Jalen Brunson looks terrific on both sides. 39% winner on FanDuel, 59% of the top 150, 28% on DraftKings, 50% of the top 150. Just easy to pay up for in this situation. All the usage in the world. Obviously has to win the game for this team now. 34.2 minutes last night, put up 48.3 FanDuel points. Got him projected above that. He's been a 1.18 per minute player on the season. That rate is higher with no Randall out there. So plenty of love for Brunson. Just kind of going through things today because it's concentrated up at the top. You have to work 47 hours in 6 months. So ridiculous. Practices are not walkthroughs. True. Power says RotoWire projects Vanderbilt at the 5. RotoGrinders projects Christian Wood. They both had Hayes projected earlier. OG out. So that concentrates things even more on these next now. Let me update that. It is, 5:51. Let me see what else has changed here. All right, so OG's out. Zinger's still questionable. Keldon, no, that's Wednesday. Hunter playing. DeJounte probable. Okay, so DeJounte went up to probable before. That was the news we got before. Good. Right now, probable. And active. All right, we'll get the OG stuff updated as soon as we're off the show. That is just going to concentrate things even more for these Knicks. We could easily see that same starting lineup that we saw last night. Precious Chu went out and played 32 minutes last night. He started alongside Isaiah Hartenstein. Jericho Sims got a little bit of run. Hartenstein didn't get that much run. I think he came on. I didn't clock that he didn't play that much. Was he in foul trouble? Already off the rails here. One in the first. He just got no fourth quarter run. Weird minutes for Hartenstein last night, though. Like a fairly typical 6 minutes to start the game. Came out midway through the first, but then didn't come back until 8 minutes into the second. Played a short stint, 3-minute stint. Didn't pick up any fouls. He had one foul in the first. Didn't pick up any fouls. Came back out. Played the beginning 6 minutes and 58 seconds of the third quarter, and then didn't come back. Did he take a bump? I had this game on. I just didn't clock that at all. I was half paying attention, like I was updating stuff, and then I was playing some Baldur's Gate and just kind of zoned out. But all right, here we go. Per CBS, and I think this is the snake eating its tail because CBS is quoting RotoWire. Actually, I think CBS owns RotoWire. Whatever. Hartenstein capped at 25 minutes against Utah. Logged 16 minutes in back-to-back contests since returning from the Achilles soreness. All right, so Tibbs is just keeping him limited. Let's see where I just had him at 26. I'll knock another minute. I'll probably knock a couple minutes off just because they've been that conservative with him. What do you think? We go to like 20, 22, 23? Probably 22, something like that. So it should be another opportunity for Precious. We should see some minutes for Jericho Sims again, who is a dynamic player who makes a lot of quick fantasy collection type plays, a lot of rebound putback type plays around the rim. But not like an elite usage guy or anything like that, but can pick up some defensive stats around the rim and can definitely rebound on both ends of the court and stuff the ball a little bit. But no OG is going to throw 38 minutes back into the mix here. So we'll get more minutes again for Grimy. We'll get more minutes for Precious. DiVincenzo will just play the entire game. Josh Hart will play plenty. And Jalen Brunson will just have everything to do on the offensive end. So just upward trajectory for all the Knicks, including the guys we already talked about. And then the other one that got brought up there was the Lakers. That's right. So right now I've got it Vandy 27 minutes, Wood 24, Hayes 20. Just kind of split the baby type situation there, which has been relatively safe. When's the last time AD wasn't there? AD. Last time AD missed. By the way, kudos for Anthony Davis for being out there a lot this year. December 15th. And in that game, that one, it looks like it was LeBron, Austin Reeves, Taurean Prince, Jackson Hayes, and Max Christie to start. Hayes ended up playing 19.8 minutes, call it 20. Vandy came in. He was the first big man off the bench. Vandy came in and played 13 minutes total. Rui was the next man in. Rui played extensive minutes throughout the game, 34.2. Christie total 23, basically played the first and then closed the game. LeBron was at 36 minutes that night. Taurean Prince was at 36 minutes. Austin Reeves was at 34. Christian Wood he got run in every quarter. He ended up playing 30 minutes for the game. Handful of minutes at the end of the first. Started the second quarter, rested, came back for a big chunk in the end of the second quarter, played most of the third and most of the fourth. And then looks like they had some garbage time run at the end of the game with Max Christie, Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes, Colin Castleton, and Demoy Hodge for the last, call it 6-8 minutes of the game. That was a game that they lost to San Antonio 129-115. Ouch. So like I said, I think there is just kind of a hodgepodge of minutes there. You could argue that Rui could pick up a couple additional ones. Vandy could lose a couple. Christian Wood could pick up a couple. Jackson Hayes could lose a couple. I probably will, once we get starter news, I probably will like kind of gear it a little bit more toward whoever is in there, especially if it's somebody who's not getting those minutes. But right now, I think it's basically properly set up for just like the could go any which way, and you'll get some of them. So looking more at this board, I guess we can get into some position by position real quick. Only 5 games, fortunately, so it's not crazy. That's interesting. Pat Bev, 4,800 on FanDuel, point guard only, is a critical piece. 61.6%. I believe he's the second most highly owned player on FanDuel. He's currently the most highly projected for ownership on FanDuel now. I jumped again. Can't keep up. Remember that Pat Bev was the guy I was talking about at the beginning of the show that started the day at 0.5, went to 5, went to 9, went to 49. Now he's above 50. Ahead of Dante DiVincenzo, ahead of Austin Reeves. The next, I can't stand Patrick Beverley. I think he's a good, like, hard-nosed player. I think Patrick Beverley, getting 18, 20 minutes a night can obviously be on title contenders, right? For what he does on the court. But for DFS purposes, I've lost more than I've won with Patrick Beverley for sure. And just looking at it by ownership, like the next list of players is like an elite level Dante DiVincenzo, Austin Reeves with a lot of opportunity, DDR, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart with plenty of opportunity, Oubre. Like there's so many better players just immediately under him. That is irritating. On DraftKings, I guess it's, in line with what we're seeing here. So that does make sense. So, again, on FanDuel, it just comes through based on that $4,800 price tag at point guard, 5.93 points per dollar. You can see the difference there. 5.23 points per dollar on DraftKings at 54 against the DraftKings cap. That's a big, big price difference. And he just hits the slate very differently on DraftKings. So he comes up with a 7.9% win rate, 4.6% of our top 150. And going by the ownership, he's not nearly at the level he's at on FanDuel. He's just in the mid-teens. But it looks like, based on our sim here, that he is a little bit over-owned on DraftKings, which is interesting because he is critical on FanDuel and we're getting more of them than what's projected. It's the margin's closing, but we're still 25 points over the field in that top 150. Interesting site-to-site difference on Pat Bev today. Gary Trent, another differentiated guy, 15.79% of the top 150 on FanDuel, 16%, call it, win rate, 14% of our top 150. On DraftKings for 4,900 at shooting guard only, just minimal single-digit returns, just 1.3% of the top 150. He was at a better win rate than that. So if you need a value play for 4,900, you could grab a couple additional shares of Gary Trent. It's not awful, but it's not great. And then a very differentiated Kelly Oubre, also from Philly, which is interesting. Oubre's done well a few times in this situation where kind of has to pick up the slack for some missing teammates. 27.45% win rate on FanDuel, 26% of our top 150. On DraftKings, just nothing at all. He's 6,400 on DraftKings, shooting guard, small forward, versus 58 on FanDuel. Again, just monstrous difference site to site in terms of the relative price impact there. So Oubre's critical. Looks like we'll be getting a lot more Philly on FanDuel than we do on DK. Looking at the top of the board, and guys who are common on both sites. So DiVincenzo, Austin Reeves, kind of unavoidable on both sites. You also get Pat Bev in this mix on the FanDuel slate. And then we drop down on FanDuel a little bit, but Jalen looks great and will go up. Quentin Grimes will probably go up from here. Trend into the 20s, I would expect. And on DraftKings, Quentin Grimes will look even better, which is annoying. 3,600, it comes with the same warning. Even with improved usage, doesn't necessarily deliver, and we just saw it last night. Coming into a back-to-back, I question the upside. Scotty Barnes, 25.8% on FanDuel, 25% on DraftKings. We're getting to him 27.3% on both sites. Looks pretty terrific. Ayodesunmu, a lot of commonality today. 24.9%, 25.3% of the top 150 on DraftKings at 4,800. 22.9% win rate, 20% of our top 150. D'Lo, plenty of upside for him. 28.17% of the win rate on FanDuel, 17% of our top 150. Similar numbers on DraftKings at 7,100. He's a 1.06 per minute player overall. And the numbers before, he was 1.01 all season with no AD. Underperforming the opportunity a little bit. That is the name of D'Lo's game sometimes. Played 41 last night, put up 33.7 FanDuel points. Obviously, that's below a point per minute. You get a lot of those from D'Lo, but there is clear upside. Some solid options in the mid-teens. I mentioned no Quickly, no Barrett for Toronto. Plenty for Bruce Brown to do. 15.9% ownership commensurate with that. On DraftKings, 16.7% win rate. The ownership's a little below at 11%. How popular is Brucey? Yeah, we're a little below the field in that exposure. Field's more around this, the 16%, that level. And we're here, which I think is fine for a player like Bruce Brown, but you could also get out to the field's level. I don't think that's a mistake either. Zinger playing. That's good. One situation we don't really have to worry about. I'm glad he's back. That's a quick turnaround for Porzingis off of an injury that, for a fragile guy like that, could have cost him some time. So that's good. I'm glad he's back. I like that Celtics team. I like when they're whole. I don't for teams like that. I want to see those teams at the elite level. Like, let's see everybody healthy. Let's see who can really win this thing. Let's see everybody out there competing. And when one of those teams takes a key injury, it just saps the overall quality of the season in my mind. Jalen looks very playable. 11.3% on FanDuel, 14.3% on DraftKings in terms of the win rate. Getting to him a little bit less than that on the FanDuel slate, a little bit less than that on DraftKings. Probably, I would imagine, a little bit below the field's ownership, but I think you can get out to around the field on Jalen. Schroeder, I'm glad not to have to worry about him too much on FanDuel. Another guy, throw him into that sandbag with like Pat Beverly. Just 0.91 points per minute, 18.8% usage. There's a little bit more to work with there. And Ken, obviously, as the primary point guard with plenty of minutes, can exceed expectations. He did put up 34.6 in 29 minutes the other night. But at 6,600 on FanDuel, he's priced where he's got to do better than even that. I don't know that we're getting that. 4.44 points per dollar. On DraftKings at 5,600, 5.34 points per dollar. You're getting a little bit more. Makes him like an average play. 12.87% win rate, 13% of our top 150. Not a priority, but a guy you want as a mixer for sure. On FanDuel, 4.6% of the top 150. I think you want some if you're running 150. If you're playing like 20 lineups, I don't know that you need much Dennis Schroeder tonight. There is plenty of opportunity there, though. Don't get me wrong. Caruso looks very good on the FanDuel side. A little bit less so on DraftKings, but playable. 6% of our top 150, but with a 12% win rate. On FanDuel, we're getting to him nearly 30% of the time. 30% win rate. He's getting there 30% of the time. We're getting to him 23% of our top 150. Talked about Pat Bev extensively. Steph is always playable, comes up with a 9% win rate. Probably some of the more high-end lineups when he does get there. 5% of our top 150. I wouldn't mind being a little higher than that, getting to around this level. Play him around the field is fine. Ben Mathurin, 4.6% win rate, or 4.6% exposure, 8.37% win rate. Both of those guys look pretty similar on the DraftKings slate. Again, Steph over here, 9,100, 7.48% winner, 4% of our top 150. We know what the ceiling with Steph Curry looks like on any given slate. He's been at 1.29 per minute on DraftKings this season, 1.21 on FanDuel. Trey similarly has ceiling for sure. 3.9% win rate on FanDuel, 2.67% of our top 150, 4%, but didn't get to him in our top 150, interestingly, on DraftKings. Just a little bit more balance for Atlanta, assuming that the DeJounte Murray's out there with DeAndre Hunter coming back. Not that Trey's going to sacrifice much usage or anything like that. He's been at 1.31 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 1.37 DraftKings points. Just, he's priced appropriately for being Trae Young in this situation. 10-2 on FanDuel point guard only, 98 on DraftKings point guard only. Playable, but better options abound. And then again, Kelly Oubre on FanDuel, yes. On DraftKings, didn't really come up at the $6,400 price. DraftKings priced Philly kind of correctly for the situation that they find themselves in. Trey can see Jalen. He likes Vandy at 4,400. Kind of want Brunson, but I've built a few with just straight like 5 to 7,100 with Russell. Yeah, I think taking that approach isn't necessarily wrong, but Brunson again with picking up additional is going to look really killer on both sides. Not like when you asked about Luka last night, but not far off that level at this point in terms of expectation. Not in terms of absolute ceiling, but in terms of expectation of success. Let's jump to the forwards. Keep this thing moving along. Joker's here. Must be dinner time. Starting an hour late, we're running into Joker's dinner time. He's over here licking the side of the chair. So with forward eligibility, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, all already look good. And again, going to gain even more ground in from where we have them projected. Already have minutes on DiVincenzo and Josh Hart. It's not a minutes thing, but there should be a little bit of additional rate. And maybe I do, since DiVincenzo went out and played 41-9 with no OG there last night, there's probably reason to believe that he's going to gain, a couple of minutes more in the projection here. You'd realistically put him at like 36, 37 now. I don't know if I will. I'll decide. Quentin Grimes will pick up a couple additional minutes and potentially a little bit of additional usage. We've talked about the Knicks extensively. They're all on the board. Draymond Green on the board on FanDuel, on the board on DK. 30.58% win rate on DraftKings. 35% of our top 150 for 6,200. Power forward and center eligible. On FanDuel, 34.7% of win rate. 46% of our top 150. So getting to Draymond at a pretty good clip. Ahead of the win rate on both sides. They're in the late game. Going up against that Philly team. Draymond. This is DK. We are essentially double the field on DraftKings exposure. And yeah, about double the field exposure on both sites. Like almost exactly. Draymond looks like an interesting option today. 1.06 FanDuel points per minute on the season. 1.08 DraftKings points per minute. Played 45.7 in the overtime game. 54.3 FanDuel points. Give me that all day for 6,800 at power with positional flex. I like Draymond here. What was the line in that game? They're favored by 3.5, 235 point total. If Embiid doesn't go, does that have an impact on Draymond? The necessity to play those guys in the fourth quarter. I don't know how big that point spread gets if Embiid doesn't go. I think Draymond looks good across the board no matter what. It's only a 32-minute projection too. It's not like I've got him at like 38 minutes and he's got to be out there for the full game. So I like that option. Kuminga simultaneously looks pretty good. 6,900 both forward spots on FanDuel, 5,800 both forward spots on DraftKings. Getting to him more on DK than on FanDuel. 33% of the top 150, 26.3% win rate. He's been at 1.01 DraftKings points per minute on the season, 0.99 FanDuel points per minute. We're getting 12% of them on the FanDuel slate against the 16% win rate. He's been good for them, too, since the start of the year. Good boy. Just chill. Since January 1, 327 minutes, Kuminga's up to 1.10 FanDuel and 1.12 DraftKings. So, an additional tenth of a point per minute in the calendar year. A little bit of an uptick. Scotty Barnes, tremendous opportunity as usual, and no IQ, no RJ Barrett. Plenty for him to do today. 25.8% win rate, 27% of our top 150 on FanDuel. Similar numbers on DraftKings, 25-27. At 8,800 point guard and small forward eligibility, you love the positional flex. It's a really strong price, 5.52 points per dollar for a 1.27 per minute guy. I like that option. On FanDuel at 93, he's coming through in the sim. Seems like a pretty good pay-up option. 24% usage under normal circumstances. Believe it goes up here. I set the rate against it. I just don't remember. Rui looking really good. 24 minutes projected. Again, that could scale up. That could scale down. The last time they had this situation, he played 30-something. We'll see who's starting. But at 46, both forward spots on FanDuel. 22% of the top 150. Getting to him right at that number. At 3,800 on DraftKings, both forward spots, it's 5.91 points per dollar. One of the better, second best points per dollar behind DiVincenzo's 6.74 at the position among all forwards. So really strong points per dollar opportunity for Rui. 24.3% win rate, 28% of our top 150. But again, the Lakers are going to be popular. Although Rui, not crushingly so, now that I'm double checking that. That could change if he finds himself in the starting lineup. I've gone to Rui a few times in this situation, or in a situation where there's question marks about, is it going to be Wood, is it going to be Vandy, who's it going to be? I just like grabbing some cheaper Rui in a lot of those spots because he does find minutes when when these games unfold. I don't mind this. At 38, that is a very good piece of value on DraftKings. Because again, this is with a just standard, 24-minute projection. In 34 games, he's played 22-8 a night. So we're right around what he averages. We're not giving him anything overly exceptional yet. So Rui could only really trend north from here. I think there's ample reason to make room for Rui. LeBron, if he plays, definitely playable on FanDuel. 17.15%, 13% of our top 150. On DraftKings, at a 24% win rate, he landed in just 10% of the top 150. He is pretty popular over there. About 3 times the popularity of that win rate in the projected ownership that this sim ran with. DeRozan looks good on both sites. 20+% win rate, 20+% exposure on both. Tobias, another guy in Philly with plenty to do. Let's check what that's looked like recently. All right, so that's not a big sample. Since the start of November, with no Batum, no Maxey, Tobias has been at just 0.92 FanDuel points per minute. That's surprising. It's actually a little bit below these numbers. It's only 129 minutes. It's not a huge sample. I'm surprised it's down, though. Let's see. Oubre at 1.07. Beverly 0.87. Pull them up. I want to double check because I might need to retweet these because the original rates were done with Maxey in. Then I changed it for Maxey, but I might owe Tobias and Oubre a recheck. Yeah, Tobias probably. Let me. That's probably better. Tobias comes down slightly. We're talking about like fantasy 1.5, maybe 2. But I think he's maybe a little bit high given what he's done. Again, it's a small sample and he is a good option. Now that I'm rethinking this, maybe I don't want to do that. I might split the difference. I'm going to give it back to him for now, and I'm just going to put a flag on it for after the show. Oubre, probably if I take that point away from Tobias, I might just give it to Oubre. Not that there's a direct, one from this guy goes and that fantasy point is owed to somebody, but I think I owe Oubre a little bit on his rate in this situation, and I'm debating about Tobias. Anyway, both guys will remain playable, and Tobias will probably remain around these, just under 20% win rate, just under 20% exposure. It's not going to be a big enough difference that it's going to really matter. He might come down to like 30, 34 and a half FanDuel points. He's not at 50. And similar over here, like 35 DraftKings points. Jason Tatum looks playable on FanDuel, 6.25% win rate, 5% of our top 150. Looks downright good on DraftKings. 9,200 on DK versus the 10,000 on FanDuel, both forward spots. 19.6% win rate, 32% of our top 150. Got to a lot of Tatum. Basically double the field on Tatum on DraftKings in that sim. I don't mind that at all. High-end game against Indy. That game again carrying a 247.5 point total. Boston favored by 7.5. We do have Zinger back, but that's not going to really have a critical downturn on anything that Tatum has done, and it's already projected that way. Zinger's right here. He also looks pretty good. 16% win rate on FanDuel, getting to him less than that. Power forward and center for 8,200. 9% win rate, getting to him a little bit more than that on DraftKings for 7,600, same positions. Jalen is also right here. We talked about him real quick in the guard section, but he looks very good. Or he looks good to playable on both sides. 11% winner on FanDuel, 14% winner on DraftKings, getting to him a little less. Markkanen, a little bit of upside on against the Knicks, more on the DraftKings slate. 14% win rate over there, 6.6% of our top 150 for 8,100 at 9,000. Both forward spots on FanDuel. Even against the depleted version of the Knicks, they are still strong on the board, strong underneath. I don't know. I think Markkanen has a great shot to be around that medium projection. I question what his ceiling truly looks like. And Markkanen's a player I do like getting to. But when we're getting to him less than the field in Sims, when he's coming up that much lower exposure than his win rate on DraftKings, in not the easiest spot, I can see being around what we're exposed to, what we're looking at, the 6% exposure. Clay looks like Clay, single-digit win rate, single-digit exposure on both sides, but playable. OG is off the board. He's not going. Taurean Prince, not getting much of him. 5,500. Just a little expensive, even in this situation, for what Taurean Prince is. The minutes are there, sure, but he's a 0.62 per minute guy, 13% usage rate. Doesn't really trend all that far north. He's coming up a little bit more playable on DraftKings at 3,700. He doesn't need to do all that much on DraftKings. At 55 on FanDuel, he's essentially unplayable, in my opinion. Not a lot of ceiling out of Taurean Prince. But at 37 on DraftKings, you can plug him in and just buy the square and hope for your 18 points. Ben Mathurin, playable on FanDuel. Playable on both sites. Non-priority option, but playable on both from the mid-range. Andrew Wiggins showing a little bit more on FanDuel. 11.6% winner. 9% exposure. On DraftKings, just 4%, maybe call it 5, but just 1.3% of the top 150. And then we talked about Oubre being a differentiated piece, and then DeAndre Hunter in his return at 4,400, both forward spots on FanDuel. Looks pretty strong. 21% win rate, 26% of the top 150. Was a 30-minute a night starter in his 24 games that he's played this year. 0.79 FanDuel points per minute, but an 18% usage rate. At 5,400 in both forward spots on DraftKings, he doesn't look valuable at all. But that FanDuel price is aggressively low. He's only got 26 minutes projected. I haven't seen a time restriction on him. Keep an eye out for that. We're coming up against 6:30 already. 6:24. Unreal. All right, let's see. News. Okay, so Ben Mathurin's out. That's fun. DeJounte Murray's going to play. Miles Turner's going to play. Tyrese Halliburton will play. Luke Cornett is out. Zinger is in. All right, let's talk centers. Let's take a quick look at a somewhat irrelevant sim. Fortunately, there weren't all that many centers. So Christian Wood standing tall on the FanDuel slate at 5,000, power forward and center, eligible, 46.6% win rate, 65% of our top 150. We talked about him at the top of the show on DraftKings at 3,600, center eligible, 63% win rate, landed in 95% of the top 150. Plug and play $3,600 option. And again, it's just a situation where I've got him at 24 minutes. I've just got all those guys. We're just kind of splitting the baby between those guys right now. Jackson Hayes is right here at 20 minutes, 19.5% win rate on FanDuel, 17% of our top 150 in just 20 minutes at 3,600 power forward and center. Getting to him on DraftKings, he's just 3,000 dead min, 6.4% of the top 150 the 6.4% win rate, 3.3% of our top 150. If you saw him stumble into the starting rotation, if LeBron doesn't go and there's just an abundance of minutes, Jackson Hayes only trends upward from here, I think. No guarantees of success. He's a 0.67 per minute player on the season. Even at 3,000, hopefully you're just buying the free square and you get your 15 DraftKings points. And then anything beyond that is just gravy. There's an 11.9% usage rate on the season. Embiid, if he goes, definitely playable. We're getting to him more than that win rate, 19% over the top 150. Just money to spend with so much value on the slate. 12,000 on DraftKings, 15.3% win rate, getting to him ahead of that as well, basically 20%. So basically all the center shares on DraftKings went to these four guys. I don't know that we've ever seen that before. Did I? Oh, that's what I did. I'm like, wait a minute. We are short guys. That's why. All right, so all the center shares on DraftKings went to those 8 guys, plus a little bit here. So it's Draymond, who we talked about in the forward section, Jared Vanderbilt, who we talked about in the forward section, Embiid, Vooch, Porzingis, and then tiny little share for Jackson Hayes, which could go up and you could play a little bit more of since he is the dead min. I have no issues with getting the Jackson Hayes at this 6 and change percent win rate, 6% exposure. 10% is probably fine at the dead min. Unless you see the minutes trend north, the projection trend north, you might not want to go over 10%, at least at this point. But he's perfectly fine as a just, buy the square for the cheap dead minimum price. And then some Kelly O rounding out the bottom, and 1 or 2 shares of Dario Saric, oddly. But very concentrated center ownership on the DraftKings slate. Nikola Vucevic looks very good on both sites, 22.9% winner, one of the few center-only options on FanDuel, but you do get a little bit more spread of ownership on FanDuel, 2.6% going to Miles Turner against a 3% win rate down here. I think Turner's probably more playable than that on a short slate with so much concentration going to power forward eligible players. Among our center-only guys, we're getting 19% to Embiid, 30% to Vooch, 3% for Capella. Whoops. Not that one. And like 2.6% for Turner. So that's only 55% of the FanDuel center ownership going to center-only players right now. So there's upside. There's room to squeeze additional shares of Embiid, Vooch, Capella if you want him, or Miles Turner into those center spots, and just play these other guys at power forward alongside them, depending on how much you want to get exposed to everybody. But again, only like half of our center ownership on FanDuel right now in that top 150 is going to center-only guys. A lot of value, obviously, going through Christian Wood, Draymond Green. On DraftKings, Vooch, 9.67% win rate, 11.3% of our top 150. Looks very good for 7,600, 1.21 DraftKings points per minute. Oh, sorry, that's Zinger. 7,500 for Vooch, 1.13 DraftKings points per minute, 15% of our top win rate, 12.6% of our top 150. Still looks very good. I like the per minute value at 75. I liked it a little better when I thought it was 1.21, but Vooch has very strong upside and typically doesn't trend too many times below that, that one fantasy point per minute or so level. Plays above it and doesn't tend to have too many clunkers. Pirtle didn't come up relevant on either site. Handful of minutes in his return. Jonte didn't come up all that relevant. 3% win rate on FanDuel, but didn't get to him in our top 150. Not at all relevant on the DraftKings slate. I just got there and thinking through in Chris Boucher here what the matchup for Vooch looks like. Looks like a good spot for Vooch. I like him on FanDuel. I like him on DK. So again, just to summarize the whole thing here, tons of Knicks value, tons of Lakers value. Some Golden State coming through for sure. Should be some value in Toronto. But Knicks and Lakers day. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's oh, Pirtle's out. There we go. So we got another update there. I like Vooch, as Trey was asking about Vooch. I like Vooch. Vooch can 50 burger again. I don't disagree with what you say there, Trey. Let me see here. What was that? You were asking about Barnes, huh? He was, anyway, FanDuel projected in the mid-teens. I think we were getting to him a little bit more. On DraftKings projected around a little bit more than that. He was right here. Yeah, so we're ahead of the field in these exposures. 27%. He was exactly 27.3% on both sites. And both of those marks are ahead of the field. We're a little bit further ahead of the field on FanDuel right now. A little closer to the field on DraftKings, but looks like a very good option who is only going to get better on both sites. So yeah, a lot of love for Scotty Barnes, even at the increased pricing. Tiz is saying, I'm sitting here trying to figure out if I should go Barnes and Grimes or Harris and Kuminga. Tobias Harris, I assume? Or Scotty Barnes and Quentin Grimes. Man. As much as I don't like that Grimes play, in terms of just like how disappointing he can be, I think that's probably the somewhat better side of that. Just definitely, there's more ceiling in Scotty Barnes 9 out of 10 times that you roll this slate. Harris could go out and have a good game, but he's kind of underperformed this situation in most opportunities across the season. So, yeah, I think I slightly prefer that, but it does come with the big asterisk on Quentin Grimes' potential to disappoint you there. There's probably more safety in the Harris-Kuminga combo, higher ceiling in the Scotty Quentin Grimes combo. How about that? And then it also depends, like, does Grimes buy you another 200 or so that's left over that you can spend in another to upgrade another spot? Like, it depends on how that falls. Because price-wise, Grimes is the cheapest player in that 4-man set. I don't necessarily agree with that theory, Trey. Knicks are still favored by 3. I do think there's upside for Fontecchio, Kellyo, and you know their regulars to have games, but I don't know about that blowout. I think it's going to be a closer game than it otherwise would have. I think the Knicks would have lit these guys up, but this group of Knicks still plays at a strong level. But yeah, I don't know that I would look at it as a potential Utah blowout. If anything, close game. They could. Second game of a back-to-back and so on and so forth. And obviously the critical missing pieces for the Knicks side. But Vegas isn't seeing it that way. And I'm inclined to agree. Yeah, no sweat, sis. It is really close, and it depends on what you're looking for out of that combo. Again, ceiling or safety. And that becomes a discussion of, for one, how many lineups you're playing, what kind of contests, but also just like the nature of how you want to play. Are you entering lineups and I hope I cash? I want to make a couple of bucks if it's great and I'm just having fun. Or is it like, I'm trying to angle my way to the top? That's where you kind of need ceiling. Don't care about not cashing. Want to have the best opportunity at the win is probably the higher ceiling Barnes Grimes one. So it just depends on what you're looking for, and nothing wrong with, the I want to cash and have fun approach to this. By the way, a lot of other plays, it's if you're looking to, I play every day, I play professionally, I need to play, maximize my EV on every entry, then yeah, you want to play a certain way. But yeah, if you're building one single entry and you're throwing it in, you're playing every day and having fun with it, and when you make money, great. When you lose a couple bucks, oh well. But it's just like entertainment value. It's like the cost of a beer at the bar or a couple beers at the bar or whatever. Then yeah, there's nothing at all, in my opinion, wrong with playing to cash, playing some of the safer combos out there. You take away some of the ceiling, you definitely take away, a lot of your win equity, but you do increase cash equity in that range. So depends on what you're looking for, and just go into it with, eyes open toward that scenario. Anyway, let's get, where the hell did the ace mind thing? No, it's below the little camera tab. That's why I couldn't see it. Let's get a real quick look at these lineups, and then I'm going to punch out because we had a lot of changes to make. Sims courtesy of our pals over at acemind.io. They sent me a message earlier today. They've got confirmation that the promo codes are getting set up, which is great. So we'll have that for you guys hopefully as soon as next week. Holy shit, that's a lot of Christian Wood. That's what 90% of the top 150 looks like. All right. So DraftKings. Again, this was done a while ago, so there's a lot of changes here. But Jalen Brunson looking very strong. D'Lo filling in the gaps where you're not getting Jalen Brunson at the point guard. Where you're not getting D'Lo, you're probably getting Austin Reeves. It is between those three guys for your point guard shares. Maybe a little Dennis Schroeder. Shooting guard. Austin Reeves, Dante DiVincenzo, Quentin Grimes. Pretty much straight down the board. Little couple of IOs in here. A Jalen sneaking in there. Small forward, you've got a little opportunity to spend on like a Tatum, but you've also got room for your Rui value there. You've got some Kuminga eligibility at small forward. You've got DiVincenzo eligibility at small forward. You can get some Scotty in there, of course. Power forward does look like we get a little bit of spend in some of the spots. Some DDR, some Tatum, Tobias, Draymond, who's not crazy pricey. Tatum again, Zinger. So a good amount of Tatum in that spot. Some of our Tobias interest falls there. And then some fair mid-range or value types. Kind of a mixed bag at the power forward spot. C is for Christian Wood today. Assuming things don't change. Guard, looks like we are picking up a fair amount of Bulls value between Kobe. Well, Kobe's not a value play anymore, but we're getting a little bit of Kobe White. We're getting some Ayo Dosunmu in some of these shares. There are a lot of just whoever you didn't play over here, you play over here. So like D'Lo, Jalen, Ayo, Austin Reeves, Jalen, Ayo, Kobe White, Jalen, Austin Reeves, Ayo, Jalen DiVincenzo, Quentin Grimes. I don't know that I love that with all three of those guys in it. Jalen and DiVincenzo, yes. Actually, no. I'm going to unwind that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That lineup's actually kind of interesting. Jalen, DiVincenzo, Rui, Tatum, Christian Wood, Quentin Grimes, Kuminga, and Scotty Barnes. Leaves 200 on the table. Brings back 235 against your 15. 0.14% win rate. That's an interesting lineup. So you can see a little bit of what I was just talking about with the cashing versus winning reflected here, right? If I resort this by cashing probability, you can see against the win rates, against the average cash, how those change a little bit. It's 0.26% winner, has a 30.1% cash probability, which is still strong, but it's less likely to cash than it is to win. Wherever the hell it went. I think you take the point. Like this 35% casher has just a 0.12% probability of winning. We're talking about fractions or decimals here, right? A 0.21% win probability against a 0.12% probability is not truly appreciable by the human brain, but it is there. Oh, wait, let me resort that correctly. We're always sorted by ROI, by the way. Lot of Draymond, some Kuminga at the forward spot, but again, we're getting just like shares of whichever options we didn't choose in those other spots. And then util, we are getting some Embiid in there, which is good because so many center shares went to Christian Wood. A little bit of a mix, but a lot of high-priced guys at the util spot. Embiid, some Scotty Barnes, some DDR, some Jalen, Tatum. And then, mid-price guys like Draymond, Wiggins, Kuminga. Here's a Rui. Mamba. I talked about Rui before. Here's another Rui. I like Rui in this spot. I've gone to him a few times. Last time they had this situation, we looked at it. I'm not sure if you were here. He played 32 minutes or whatever I said? He's a decent basketball player. I don't dislike Rui. I think he's probably better than a lot of these other guys. So yeah, we're getting him. He did come up a good amount. He was at in the original run, he was in 24 minutes, 22.3% winner on FanDuel, same exposure, and 24.3% win rate on DraftKings, and 28% exposure in that top 150 for 3,800. Really like the value for Rui on the DraftKings slate. And again, just a lot of Christian Wood coming through. Wood I've also got at just 24 minutes at $3,600 center. There's just a ton of points per dollar value right there right now. Even if he dropped to 20 minutes, he'd still look pretty okay. Wouldn't be nearly as strong. Would have a much bigger basement. But as we looked at, he's been playing well since the start of January in all situations. Up by 0.15 per minute. Based against his season average. So I've got some faith in the Christian Wood play. I don't know that I want 90+% of it, but I think getting to a lot of it is certainly reasonable. 6:43, we got to punch out of here. Joker's getting hungry. Chill, buddy. I know you're hungry. Let me pull up FanDuel here, and then we will get out and get things updated and feed the pets. So the FanDuel slate, there's a lot of Jalen Brunson. A lot of Patrick Beverly, didn't I? Oh, no, Patrick Beverly was crazy highly owned. It was Dennis Schroeder that I didn't have to worry about on FanDuel. That's right. Yeah, Pat Bev, way more relevant to the FanDuel slate, given a very low price over there. Good amount of Vooch. A lot of spend at center. I like that. A lot of Vooch coming through. Vooch, Embiid, Draymond. So, like I said, it was only, 50-something% going to the true centers on the FanDuel slate. And to me, that does mean that you can push shares of Vooch and Embiid. And I'm glad that they're coming through in the top end of this top 150. I think that justifies that a little bit because everybody else that was coming up with center value has power forward eligibility. So you can just configure it that way. You're not really sacrificing shares of your Woods, your Draymonds, your Jackson Hayeses, let alone your, of course, LeBrons and guys like that, Rui. So I really like that those guys came through at the top. You can flex guys in from the power forward spot, like Draymond here, Christian Wood here, Draymond here, Christian Wood there. But that's a lot of Vooch and Embiid in our very best lineups overall on FanDuel. So that's kind of how I would look to build. I think if I'm running 20 If I'm running 150, I think I want to be above the field on Embiid and Vooch, assuming Embiid plays, of course, all of this. That's not bad. I like that came up that way. Jalen and Pat Bev is going to come up in just tons and tons of lineups. As you can see, they are the dominant two names in the point guard spot. Tons of Dante DiVincenzo. You're obviously not getting OG anymore. DiVincenzo, Austin Reeves, Kelly Oubre, and some D'Lo, like depending on how the spend falls, are probably going to be your most relevant shooting guard plays. DiVincenzo also falls at the small forward, so does Austin Reeves. We're getting some DDR in there. We're getting some DeAndre Hunter because he's super cheap on FanDuel. Not sure what the opportunity necessarily looks like, but he's very, very cheap. I think it's worth finding out with a few shares. Rui comes up a little bit at the small forward. Kuminga has eligibility there. LeBron has small forward eligibility on FanDuel. Silly. Scotty comes up a little bit. And then it's just those straightforward builds in the big men. I like the way this slate falls. These are a lot of like good looking lineups. Outside of having to rely this much on Patrick Beverley, which I always hate, I kind of like the way that these lineups come together. I don't know how it fell on DraftKings last night, but after I said it during the show, it was exactly what I said, where like we had all those like crazy Starsy Scrubsy lineups, and then I looked at the winner and it was just like straight down the middle. Like everybody spent like, 65 to 7,000 per player. It's just like, of course. Yes, Trey. I don't dislike Bruce Brown at all. I think he came through a decent amount on the Sims, and I just like that spot in terms of, the opportunity there with a lot of missing pieces. Not the highest upside offensive player in the world, just a 16% usage rate on the season under normal circumstances, 0.83 points per minute, 0.84 points per minute. Certainly out there in a lot of ways for his defense, but a capable enough offensive player when he needs to be, and should see plenty of minutes. I've got him at 32 tonight. He costs 5,900 small forward spot on FanDuel, 55 shooting guard and small forward on DraftKings. Percentage-wise, he's coming up a little stronger. It's about the same. Exposure-wise, we're getting 16% of them in the top 150 on FanDuel, 11% against the 16.7% win rate on DraftKings. I think you can get to him around that win rate and be perfectly fine, which would put you right around his field level ownership as projected in the sim that we ran. So, yeah, I like the Bruce Brown option. With that said, 647, I got to get shit updated, and then I can build a few lineups here. So let me punch out. Let me say good night and good luck to you guys. I'm stealing somebody's famous exit line. But, yeah, that's about it. Good luck out there, guys. Somebody go win something. Back tomorrow for a Wednesday basketball slate. See ya.